Okay,
You
we're
know, it's
rolling. Okay, welcome back to our podcast. All I can say.
yeah,
Okay, and today's topic is uh, climate change, and we're going to talk about it in terms of climate change versus climate policies, because I don't think that people uh, necessarily argue about the fact that we're dealing with climate change. We all know we're dealing with climate change.
hmm
That is a real thing,
yeah,
and it is a concern. We do need to be concerned about it, but um, we're kind of led to like we're told that it's disastrous
yeah,
and the end of the world is coming. And I think that's where we might disagree.
yeah.
I
I
disagree
mean,
with that.
so I mean, if you look at like earlier in history, right? So you can even look at like I don't know, the time of the dinosaurs, right?
Mhm.
During the time of the dinosaurs, like the planet was still here. It still exists. Everything's still there. It's just that because of how the ozone was, it was very hot, right? And
Yes.
I mean, like, of course, life adapted to that eventually, and a lot whatnot. And yeah, sure, if it got that bad,
Hmm.
maybe humanity wouldn't still be here. That's fair. You can say
That's
that.
fair. That's fair.
But to say that it's going to be like the end of the world as we know it, and it's just gonna be all kaput, like gone, boom. No.
Kaput, gone. We're going to be gone. I think it's the. I don't know if they
If
worry.
it gets bad enough, yeah.
Yeah, but oh,
But I don't know if it'll get that bad.
well, how can we ever know? We don't know that we haven't cycled around this. Look, human beings have been on this planet. We have been through more changes and adapted and
Yeah, I mean, like, just think
come
about
on
it.
now.
Like the human race
Yeah.
survived like the ice age and everything, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure that we can handle hotter climates. It just means that things are going to change.
So apparently the the policies are the thing that most people are having a struggle with. The climate policies that we have in place right now, they are pushing for the net zero agenda, this pushing for zero carbon footprint, and that somehow that this is doable and that uh,
You know, it's
in
completely
by
unrealistic.
2030, and it's not. It just isn't. So
No.
uh, so the UK costs for of green energy, and this is what's happening, and they know this is happening now, that it's not actually coming down. The cost of that kind of energy, it keeps going up and up. It's actually really expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that leads to low growth. So if you don't have um, an abundance of cheap energy, you have lower growth.
Because when if you think about it like a business, when a business has more and more and more expenditures over time,
Right.
there's like the business is going to be growing at a slower rate because it's not gaining as much money, and money is what like really makes things grow. That's what makes things better and bigger and all that.
Yes, it also makes our ability to manage the climate, like what we can do and how we can manage our our, uh, our climate, our footprint.
Yeah.
Uh, it improves our ability to do that as well, and with innovation and adaptation and so on and so forth. So the higher the growth comes with the abundance of cheap energy. Did I say that?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Okay. Uh, Now, climate change is a concern. It's not like we shouldn't be concerned about it, but I think that this idea that it's the end of the world is a bit of a that's
That and also just like the general approach that they've taken, right?
right.
Because I think the one of the biggest flaws that they have with their approach is that they focus really hard on the individual, right? So
Yes.
every single person has their individual responsibility for the climate,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
When in truth, if well, like if you get like a room of 100 people and then you get them all to do like these climate saving things, the difference is completely negligible. There's really no
That's
difference.
right. We're not making it.
So even if you get to like larger and larger scales with more and more people, at the end of the day, that isn't actually really affecting anything.
So what's happening is the climate policies that are in place right now and that they're pushing for, it actually isn't working. It's
Mhm.
actually not working. So, and these policies are driven by wealthy people,
Yeah.
people who have a lot of money. And those wealthy people actually never have to deal with the hardships that come because of the results of these policies. It puts a hardship on people. It makes them poorer.
Mhm.
It lowers our growth rate.
It raises prices of a lot of different things. Like,
Yes.
take for instance, like the gas prices are higher because now like they want to save the planet, so they add like the carbon tax and everything like that.
Yes.
So that makes everything that we are buying a lot more expensive. It makes us poorer and live worse lives.
Yeah, we know how everybody's happy about that carbon tax. Everybody loves that carbon tax.
Mm.
So, there are 70 countries. I was watching this. It's the ARC, which is the Alliance for Responsible Citizen. Alliance for Citizens. Alliance for Responsible Citizens it's a conference that they have now every year. I think this was their third or fourth one. I can't remember how many. Anyway, I think maybe the fourth one. And this guy, oh, here we go. I got to say his name right. Bjorn Lomborg. Is that correct? Lomborg? Bjorn Lomborg.
As far as I know.
He's been studying this stuff. And he was speaking at this conference.
Mm-hmm.
So I was watching him, and this is what he was saying about how there were 70 countries now have the data. They have it. It's been going on long enough now.
Yeah.
And the data shows that the climate policies cost more and more and more. It's not getting less and less expensive. But we are told that wind and solar is cheaper, and it's getting even cheaper, and it's cheaper than it's ever been, but it's actually costing more and more and more. And there are 70 countries now that have this data in, and they know that this is the way it really is. But these policy driving, pushing the net zero agendas people, they just won't acknowledge the facts. All they do is they just kind of talk against it. They just talk against it.
Yeah.
In other words, as if I say that it's not true, then it won't be true, and I just continue to say it's not true, and therefore it's just not true.
Mm-hmm.
How you can, I don't even know. There's also, we're told that there is an increase in fire.
Yeah.
Where are you going? Fires.
Yeah.
Now, apparently, that now that we've had satellites up in the air for I don't know how long now, they got data from the satellites, and they're actually, that's not true.
Yeah.
That fires are what?
Well, the like they keep saying that like, well, I don't know why they say that there are more fires, but what usually they say is that the fires that do come up are worse because they take longer to start, right?
Yeah.
So because they have all these fire prevention things that they're doing and all these projects,
Yes.
there's a longer time in between each different fire, and so it ends up being more condensed and spreading out much larger and being like a bigger impact, right? That's as far as I know, like that isn't technically wrong. But to say that there are more of them is wrong, yeah.
It's actually not true. We actually have less and less.
Yeah.
And fires, and they're better like the last couple of years than they were 10 years before that, and it's actually steadily improving. And that is because we do adapt.
Yeah.
We adapt. there are things we can do about this. So the poorer people get hit the hardest with the climate change as it is. So like if like he says in Guatemala, if they get hit by a hurricane, it is devastating for them. And
Yeah.
it really disrupts their economy. It's really bad.
Yeah, because they don't have the infrastructure to protect themselves from these natural disasters, right?
Mhm.
So every time that like they get hit by them, everything that they have set up is just completely destroyed, right?
Yes.
And so they have to rebuild from scratch, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
And but the prosperous people who are like in the countries that are more prosperous, they're more resilient.
Mm-hmm.
They're more resilient because they have better health, they have better education, they're financially better able to cope with it in every way. So of
Yeah.
course that shows us that we need growth. We've got to
Yeah, because in the end, the people who pay for these policies and these new infrastructures that they want to make are the people, like the actual common people themselves.
yeah,
Because like all of those costs that they have incurred on themselves, they push that over onto the people
yes,
to make their money back.
yeah. It's always up to the people who have nothing really to do with, like, we didn't create.
Yeah, it wasn't their choice.
No,
No,
wasn't their choice.
but they still have to pay for it.
Okay, so I'm going to go to a little clip of him because he was saying how the climate policies don't work. So we're being told that wind and solar is cheap,
Mhm.
but in fact it is. And how it's not cheap, but in fact that is misleading. That is not true. So how it's misleading is what he's explaining in this clip. So
Yeah.
we'll go to the clip.
Off. And we also need to tell people that our current climate policies don't work. You know how you're constantly being told that solar and wind is incredibly cheap? We've all seen this graph of how solar and wind has come down dramatically over the last couple of decades, and it's now cheaper than ever. And many people will tell you that solar and wind is some of the cheapest energy in the world. It's some of the cheapest electricity in the world. They're technically correct, but they're dramatically misleading you. Why? Because it's only cheaper when the sun is shining or the wind is blowing. When it's not, it's the most expensive form of energy in the world because you can't buy it for any amount of money. Solar and wind is not cheap when you need electricity 24/7.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So like,
Oh, there's more to this, but yeah, because he's
I
about
messed
to
this
show
up.
you how. What happened? What'd you do?
apparently numpad is
Not
doing that.
working?
But okay, so what I want to say about this is that
Yeah.
yeah, it's true that like when you have like the solar energy and the wind energy, um every time that like it's not, the sun isn't shining or like the wind isn't blowing like he said, it's doing nothing. It's completely worthless.
Right.
And so that obviously like you still need to upkeep it for that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so for all that time that it's completely useless, it goes up in price, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're paying for something that's not doing anything,
Right.
right? It's like if you like paid for some insurance and then when you had to like use it, they didn't do anything, right?
That
It's
happens.
just a waste of money.
That
It's
happens.
just a waste of money.
It's terrible waste
Right?
of money.
So all
It
that
really
time,
hurts.
all that time that they're spending with it just not doing anything, it's just money out the drain.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Yeah.
Oh my god. That is very annoying, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry. What we got to do to fix it?
It's the most expensive form of energy in the world because you can't buy it for any amount of
All
money.
right, we're there. Yeah.
Solar and wind is not cheap when you need electricity 24/7. How do we show that? Well, take a look at this graph. We have the percent of solar and wind and electricity out the x-axis, so how much solar and wind are you producing out of your total consumption? And up this axis, you get the price. You would imagine, if you believe the green rhetoric, that as you get more and more solar and wind, this cheap energy forms, you'd get cheaper and cheaper energy. You'd also be incredibly wrong. We have data for almost 70 countries. This is what it shows. Very, very clearly that the more solar and wind you get, the more costly it gets. So you have China and India down here with little solar and wind and very low prices. You have US with a little more solar and wind and higher prices. You have the EU up there with much more solar and wind and much higher prices. And then of course you have those front runners, the United Kingdom, Germany, Netherlands, that have huge amounts of solar and wind and enormously high prices. And I'm sorry to say my native Denmark does the very best or very worst, right? Has the most solar and wind and the very highest prices.
Because were we going to comment on that?
Well, I was going to say something.
Good. Good.
Well, I was going to
okay.
I was going to ask the question, like, does he explain exactly why it gets more and more expensive?
I don't know.
Because that's what I'm wondering about, right?
Why it gets more and more expensive? Because
the more infrastructure you have, the more expensive it gets. Is it because there's more wasted time, like every time you increase the amount there is? Is that what it is?
Because you need electricity 24/7. And if you don't have it, then you're having to get it from somewhere else anyway. So your cost, you wouldn't think the cost would go up though.
I don't like.
Why is it going up?
So I think what it is that they said that the more infrastructure that they have, the less expensive it is. But the thing is that, like I said, there's just more useless time, and then there's also more expenses on keeping everything working, right? And so with all that extra time that they spend not having anything working or doing anything, and the more infrastructure there is, the more there is of that. So they have higher expenditures the more stuff there is. And that doesn't necessarily mean that like you're going to be getting like a lot more energy per se, because like what if you have several days in a row where it's just all cloudy,
it's all cloudy and no wind.
Yeah.
And depending on where you live, too, because some places, right, get like
if you
here in Nova Scotia,
or if you set up in Ireland, and then like it's just constantly raining. There's no sun, like
yeah, and they have seasons where it's all rain and and then all sun.
So I think that's what's causing it. I think that's what's causing it. So like the more infrastructure they have, the higher their expenditures are because there's more time wasted. I think that's what it is.
It's got to be that. That sounds reasonable. I'd like to get
That's my best guess.
I'd like to get more information on that then.
Yeah.
That's something we can look up.
If you know why that's the case, tell us in the comments. There you go.
Yeah.
Ooh. Nice little tie in there.
Comments. Ooh. Oh, and ding ding, the little bell, a likey.
You have to subscribe to get the bell, not like.
Subscribe and I can't say it now. She's in the she thinks she's not in it, but she's in it. There she is. See? We want to look into that. Let's see if we can do some more research on that. And put comments, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Comments.
If you have any ideas, or if you know why their expenses are so high,
you can like
tell us in the comments.
You can like without subscribing.
Yeah, it's just that you can't like. So you said the bell. You said specifically the bell.
The bell. You
have to subscribe to get the bell. Okay. So, did you want to watch more of the video?
Kathy Brown. No, I don't need to watch more of that. I think, didn't he say? That was the chart, right?
Yeah, that was the chart, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I need more of that. Anyway, the point is that they say that these things are cheaper, and it's misleading. Why it's not cheaper, we're going to do some more research, and anybody can leave a comment if you happen to know why. I'll be happy to. Please let us know. So the getting back to the fact that that we're told that it's an emergency
Hmm.
and or it's like disastrous, and we've been hearing that. I've been hearing that because when I was I watched this is many years ago, so I'm watching this documentary on TV one night, and it's showing how water's going to rise, and gee, half of Halifax is going to be in the water in 20 years, and I think PEI was pretty much gone, and
Oh
all
yeah.
kinds of like it was just insane. And I called my mother, and I went called my mom, and I said, "Oh my gosh, mom, like we got about 20 years left and we're going down and this is it." And she,
Yeah.
of course, said, "Oh, Melanie." She did one of those, Melanie.
And like on several car rides, like my dad's like, "Oh my God, you do the like all half of Nova Scotia's could be gone in like 20 years," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, sure."
And by the way, just so you know, now, because your father's 20 years or more younger than me,
Yeah.
and this was happening, I was in my 20s. So this is in 86. Half of Halifax was supposed to be gone. 20 years later, and
They're saying the same thing.
This is right. 20 years later, it's supposed to be gone. I called my mom. She says, "Stop talking so loose. This is not going to happen in our lifetime." And then
They're gonna say it again. Watch. They're gonna say it again once, like 5 years from now.
thing is, this is now we're almost at 2026. We're talking 40 years later. And I'm telling you that there's not even that much of the Halifax is gone. Nothing has changed. It's
Yeah.
been 40 years and they're still saying it. Would you please? Obviously, the one thing that I have learned over the years, especially since then, from then on, whenever I hear any kind of fear-mongering whatsoever, I am suspect.
Yeah.
I am suspect. I learned from that, and
Yeah.
I'm suspect. And I can tell you something. Anytime anybody is screaming fire when they see smoke,
Hmm.
they're either ignorant, as in they don't know better, and irresponsible, or they are very intelligent
Hmm.
and irresponsible. Because one is coming from a fear-based reaction to something, which is irresponsible
Yeah.
and dangerous, and the other one is manipulating for some kind of personal gain. There's no way around it. There's something they're getting out of that, and that is also irresponsible and dangerous, and that's it. So either way, fear mongering of any kind raises my bells ding-a-ling. So if they want net zero, then they can pay for it. They have all the money, they can pay for it.
Yeah.
But don't ask me to pay for that because I don't have it to give you. I can only do so much.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So poor people do get hit the hardest
Hmm.
when there is no growth,
Yeah.
and we need more growth. And prosperous people are more resilient. We know that.
Hmm.
And I'm going to look at my notes again here. How do we fix it? We fix it with innovation and adaptation. And the adaptation, for example, is where the sea waters are rising. And if I ever see any evidence of that, I'll let you know. I haven't seen any evidence, and it's been 40 years. So
Yeah.
exactly. So low carbon research and development, we certainly need that, and that's innovation. We can be more innovative that way, and we can still improve our carbon footprint over time without devastating the growth, of people's or countries' economies. And adaptation, as in he pointed out, dikes and levees and he says that the dikes and levees would actually save way more people, like a crazy amount, than our carbon policies would be able to save, like maybe 5,000 as opposed to 175 million. It's like that big of a difference.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So I'm at the end of the rope. I think we're done. It was a damn good show, just like the twins. Oh, I really like them. The twins, what are their names? Conservative twins. They're funny. I really do enjoy them. Okay. I'm going to get the conservative twins. Oh, I see. So they're... Anyway. And it's a little plug-in for somebody else. There we go. So, we'll get some information about the why it is that the cost keeps going up and up rather than coming down when using the wind and solar. It's just not working. Maybe it works in a way, but we need to combine it with something else. Maybe we need more innovation. We got to do something.
Yeah.
Like maybe fracking is actually not a bad idea. And again, we've got the fear mongering on that as well. And they now could do like nuclear power and make it much more safe. And well, not much so. They could make it safe because they've already learned from their mistakes. But now people are just like,
yeah,
because of history.
Like the chances that there's another like Chernobyl type incident are pretty low. Like they've figured out how to regulate and make nuclear energy and power and plants and stuff like that a lot more safe, and the chances of getting like to a hypercritical state is just not really very high. But like there's already like the stigma about it because of like all of the disasters that have happened because of the nuclear power.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so now, but
it probably would be the best option.
It is a really inexpensive way of, there was something else he said, which I found really interesting.
I don't think the footprint's that bad either, as far as I know.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
It isn't unless there's some...
Unless
it explodes. Then it's really bad footprint, It's not nice. But they would have all kinds of safeguards in place, and they've learned from the past mistakes, right?
Yeah.
So we're not promoting those things. We're letting people be afraid of them. I wonder why. Could somebody please tell me why? Yeah,
money.
Somebody making some money.
The rich people need more money.
Yeah, somebody making some money. I don't know. That's my, can't prove it. I can't prove it. So that was a good episode. We're going to say, we should say goodbye.
Yeah.
What do you think? We'll say goodbye. And come back and see us next time. All I can say, and like, comment, subscribe.
There you go.
And then ring the ding ding bell. Ding a ling. Okay. Over and out.